He was the teenager who made the world laugh, the young star who outran time in a DeLorean, and the man who faced an illness that tried to steal everything. But at 64, after fame, family, heartbreak, and a lifetime of fighting Michael J. Fox has finally revealed the truth he's kept closest to his heart, who he wants beside him at the very end, and who he does not. And the reasons will change the way you see his entire journey. Before the world knew his smile, life was already shaping the boy who would become its brightest light. Michael J. Fox was born on the 9th of June, 1961, in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. His birth name was Michael Andrew Fox, and he arrived as the fourth child in a lively home filled with noise, movement, and energy. His father, William Fox, worked both as a police officer and a member of the Canadian Armed Forces. William was a disciplined man who believed in hard work, routine, and responsibility. His personality had a strong influence on Michael, who grew up understanding that life always required effort and commitment. His mother, Phyllis, was very different in many ways. She worked as a payroll clerk, but she also had a creative side. She acted in small roles and enjoyed performing, which gave Michael an early example of how art and expression could fit into everyday life. Together, William and Phyllis raised 5 children, and Michael grew up surrounded by 1 brother and 3 sisters. Their home was always full, but this closeness shaped him into someone who valued family, humor, and connection. Because of his father's military career, the Fox family moved often. They never stayed in one city long enough for Michael to fully settle. Just when he made friends or started to feel comfortable, the family would pack up and travel to a new town. For a young child, this constant change brought mixed emotions. On one hand, it taught him flexibility and the ability to adapt quickly to new places. On the other hand, it made him feel like nothing was permanent. He learned early that life could shift without warning, and that people sometimes had to start over. This lifestyle shaped his personality, making him observant, sensitive, and aware of the world around him. Everything changed in 1971 when his father retired from the military. The family finally settled in Burnaby, a suburb of Vancouver in British Columbia. For the first time in Michael's life, he felt what stability really meant. He could make friendships without worrying they would disappear in a few months. He could join activities and actually stay long enough to enjoy them. Burnaby became the place where he started to understand who he was and what he loved. It was here that he grew from a kid constantly on the move into someone who could explore interests, hobbies, and dreams at his own pace. As a child, Michael was known for having a big imagination. He was smaller in size than many boys his age, which sometimes made him feel different. But his small stature also shaped his personality. Instead of trying to compete physically, he found other ways to express himself. He became witty, quick, and creative. He learned how to use humor to connect with others, and how to make himself memorable without relying on size or strength. He was persistent, too. If he cared about something, he would keep trying until he figured it out. These traits followed him throughout his life, and later became part of what made people love him on screen. Growing up in Canada, Michael shared the national love for hockey. Like many boys, he dreamed of becoming a professional player one day. He imagined skating across the ice as the crowd cheered for him. But the reality was harder. His small size made the sport challenging, especially when playing against bigger, stronger boys. No matter how much he tried, he often felt at a disadvantage. Over time, he realized that hockey might not be the path where he could thrive. This was not an easy truth for him to accept, but it pushed him towards something new. Instead of seeing it as failure, he slowly began to understand it as a redirect. As he stepped away from hockey dreams, other interests began to grow stronger. He loved music and learned how to play the guitar. He enjoyed drawing and exploring his artistic side. These creative outlets helped him feel confident and expressive in ways sports never had. Eventually, he discovered acting, which brought all his interests together. Performing allowed him to use his imagination, humor, and emotional depth. He enjoyed the feeling of becoming different characters and telling stories that touched people's hearts. Even as a young teenager, he had a natural talent for understanding how to make a scene work. Creativity also became a kind of escape for Michael. Whenever life felt difficult or confusing, he turned to music, art, or performing to express himself. It helped him handle the challenges of moving so often in his early years. It helped him deal with his insecurities about being small. It helped him feel like he had a world of his own where he could control the story. Through creativity, he found freedom, confidence, and purpose. Slowly, the seeds of ambition began to take root. Michael did not announce big dreams, and he did not boast about becoming famous. Instead, his drive grew quietly inside him. When he performed, people noticed something special. Teachers, friends, and even strangers commented on his talent. He liked the feeling of making people laugh, think, or feel something real. Every small success encouraged him to explore further. He began to imagine a future where creativity could be more than a hobby. Without even realizing it, he was taking the first steps toward a career that would one day make him one of the most beloved actors of his generation. By the time he was entering his teenage years, Michael was already different from most kids around him. He had lived more places, seen more change, and developed more emotional awareness than many children his age. These experiences shaped him into someone who understood people deeply and paid attention to the world in a unique way. They also prepared him for the unpredictable journey ahead. But Michael was about to discover a world far bigger than Burnaby, one that would demand everything he had and give back even more than he dreamed. Every legend has a moment when the door cracks open and the brave step through. For Michael J. Fox, that moment came when he was just 15 years old. While most boys his age were focused on school or sports, Michael was already dreaming of something larger. When he heard about auditions for a small Canadian TV show called Leo and Me, produced by CBC, he decided to take a chance. He walked into the audition room with a mix of nerves and excitement, not fully understanding how this single decision would shape the rest of his life. His talent was impossible to ignore, and he won the role. For a teenager who had never imagined working professionally so young, it felt like a spark had been lit. Working on Leo and Me taught Michael more than he expected. He learned how important timing was in acting, knowing exactly when to deliver a line, when to pause, and when to react. He learned discipline, because filming required long days, early mornings, and repeating scenes again and again until everything was perfect. He learned how to behave on a set, how to listen to directors, how to take instructions, and how to stay focused even when tired. The camera also became something familiar to him. He began to understand how to move naturally, how to show emotion in small details, and how much difference a facial expression or a simple gesture could make. These lessons, learned quietly and patiently, became the foundation of his future success. Even though the show gave him experience, his life was far from easy. Michael still had to attend school, and balancing schoolwork with acting was difficult. Some days he felt like he was living two lives, one as a regular student and the other as a young actor trying to build a future. Money was also tight. His family supported him, but acting jobs did not pay much, and traveling for auditions or rehearsals was expensive. There were times when he wondered if he was doing the right thing, but his love for acting always pulled him forward. He knew something inside him felt alive when he performed, and that feeling kept him from giving up. After Leo and Me, Michael continued searching for opportunities. He took small roles in Vancouver theater shows, where he learned how to perform in front of live audiences and how to hold attention on stage. He appeared in minor parts for CBC productions, gaining more experience each time. These jobs were not glamorous, but they helped him grow. He began meeting other young actors, writers, and directors. He learned about the working culture of Canadian entertainment and started understanding the long process behind creating a TV show or film. Slowly, he He built confidence not because he believed he was perfect, but because he knew he was improving. During these years, Michael also came across American film crews working in Canada. Hollywood studios often came to Vancouver to shoot scenes, and he watched how their sets worked. These productions were larger, louder, faster, and more demanding than anything he had seen before. Seeing American actors and big equipment right in front of him made him feel something new, hunger for more. He realized that if he wanted to grow, he could not stay in the same place forever. Canada had given him a beginning, but the opportunities he wanted were bigger than what local productions could offer. The idea of going to the United States started forming quietly in his mind. By the time he turned 18, that idea became a real plan. Leaving home was not easy for him. He loved his family deeply, and the thought of moving far away brought fear along with excitement. But he also knew that if he did not take the chance now, he might never do it. His parents believed in him, even though they worried. His mother helped him gather what little money they could, and he prepared to move to Los Angeles with barely enough to survive. He did not have a long list of contacts or a clear path. What he had was belief in his talent and a strong desire to prove himself. When he arrived in Los Angeles, the city felt overwhelming. It was huge, loud, and crowded with people who had the same dream he did. Everyone seemed to want to be an actor, and everyone wanted the same limited opportunities. He quickly realized that Hollywood was not friendly to newcomers. Casting directors did not always take him seriously. Some laughed at his size. Some told him he looked too young. Money became a real problem, and there were moments when he struggled to afford food or rent. The dream he carried from Canada suddenly felt much heavier. But even when the city felt harsh, Michael refused to give up. He remembered the skills he learned on the sets back home. He remembered the encouragement from his family. He knew he had something to offer, even if others could not see it yet. He went to auditions again and again, often leaving disappointed but never defeated. He kept telling himself that every great actor started somewhere, and as long as he kept trying, his moment would come. Slowly, he learned how Los Angeles worked. He learned where to find auditions, how to talk to agents, and how to present himself in a way that made people notice him. He noticed that some casting directors appreciated his charm and natural humor. Bit by bit, small opportunities began to appear. The progress was slow, but it was real. Still, there were days when he wondered if he had made a mistake leaving Canada. The loneliness, the financial pressure, and the constant rejection took a toll on him. Hollywood was not the dreamland he once imagined. It was a tough world, full of competition, ego, and endless struggle. As he walked the streets of the city, he sometimes felt like he was disappearing into the crowd. Yet he didn't know that everything was about to change. As the city threatened to swallow him whole, one role, one character would change everything. Sometimes the role you never expected becomes the destiny you were born for. When Michael J. Fox auditioned for the part of Alex P. Keaton on the new NBC sitcom Family Ties, he didn't imagine how deeply it would change his life. He was still a young actor struggling to find steady work, and the competition for roles in Los Angeles was fierce. But when he read the script for Alex, something clicked. The character was smart, sharp, opinionated, and funny in a way that reminded Michael of the quick-thinking personality he had been shaping since childhood. Even though the producers had doubts because of his small size, his confidence and timing won them over. Soon, he was officially cast in the role that would make him one of the biggest TV stars of the 1,980 seconds. At the beginning, life on Family Ties was not easy. Michael faced pressure behind the scenes as the show worked to find its tone. Early scripts were still being shaped, and the writers were figuring out how to balance the humor and the emotional moments. Some days the cast felt unsure whether the show would even last. Michael had to work hard to understand how to make Alex's strong personality funny without making him unlikable. He spent long hours learning how the writers wanted him to play certain jokes and how to bring the character to life in a natural way. It took patience, practice, and trust in the people around him. The chemistry among the cast became one of the show's strongest assets. Michael quickly bonded with his on-screen parents, Meredith Baxter and Michael Gross, as well as Justine Bateman, who played his sister. Their real connection made the family feel believable on screen. They laughed together, supported each other, and learned the rhythm of working as a team. The closeness among the cast members made the show feel warm and real, which viewers noticed immediately. Even though the show was originally meant to highlight the parents' generation, audiences fell in love with Alex's character so strongly that he naturally became the center of attention. What happened next was something nobody saw coming. As the episodes aired, viewers began to connect deeply with Alex P. Keaton. His mix of humor, ambition, and unexpected charm made him stand out. People enjoyed his arguments, his clever lines, and the energy he brought into every scene. Teenagers admired him, parents laughed at him, and everyone recognized something familiar in the way he approached life. Very quickly, Michael J. Fox became the breakout star of the entire series. The audience's attachment grew into a true cultural moment, and Family Ties became one of the most popular shows on television. Michael's performance earned him major awards. Over the years, he won 3 Emmy Awards and a Golden Globe for his work on the show. These achievements confirmed what audiences already felt, that he had a rare talent that brought both humor and heart to every episode. But with this new level of fame came new responsibilities and new fears. Suddenly, he had millions of people watching him. He felt pressure to keep delivering strong performances week after week. Fame also meant that strangers recognized him everywhere he went, and he had to learn how to navigate a world where privacy became limited. At the same time, he was building the public image that people would come to know as Michael J. Fox. He understood that actors often have 2 versions of themselves, the one on screen and the one fans imagine in real life. He tried to keep both versions genuine, friendly, and relatable. He always tried to show appreciation to fans, be respectful during interviews, and present himself as someone who was grateful for his opportunities. Creating this balance took effort, but it helped him remain someone people trusted and admired, both on and off the screen. Working on Family Ties required extremely long hours. Scripts had to be studied, rehearsals had to be done, and episodes had to be filmed on tight schedules. Michael often arrived early in the morning and stayed until late at night. While other young adults his age were going to parties, dating freely, or figuring out college plans, Michael was living a very different life. He spent his time working, studying scripts, and preparing for new episodes. He had to grow up very quickly, and even though the workload was exhausting, he understood that this was the price of success. The role of Alex P. Keaton sharpened Michael's comedic voice in a powerful way. He became skilled at delivering jokes with perfect timing, reacting instantly in scenes, and using small expressions to make moments funnier. He learned how to balance seriousness with humor, and he became known for making scenes come alive in a way few actors could match. Every week, millions of viewers tuned in not just for the story, but to see what Alex would do next. The character allowed Michael to explore different sides of his talent, and each episode made him more confident as an actor. By the time he had fully settled into the role, Michael had become more than just a TV star. He represented a new kind of young actor, sharp, charming, hardworking, and relatable. He proved that talent and determination could turn a small role into a cultural phenomenon. Even though Family Ties was meant to show the values of a family from different generations, Michael's character ended up shaping the identity of the entire show. His success on television became the foundation of the career that followed. But while television made him a star, it was a single film role that would make him immortal. One character, one DeLorean, one leap into cinematic eternity. This was the moment when Michael J. Fox moved from being a successful TV actor to becoming a worldwide movie star. But the journey to Back to the Future was not smooth or predictable. The film had already started production with another actor, Eric Stoltz, in the role of Marty McFly. Stoltz was a talented performer, but his style did not match the light, funny, energetic tone the filmmakers wanted. After weeks of filming, director Robert Zemeckis and writer Bob Gale made a difficult decision. They needed a different Marty. Michael had always been their first choice, but he had been unavailable because of his work on Family Ties. When the opportunity came again, everything changed. The casting switch caused chaos behind the scenes. The studio needed a new lead actor fast, and Michael's schedule was nearly impossible. Still, he was determined to make it work. He loved the script the moment he read it. He felt a connection with Marty, a character full of energy, humor, and heart. So he agreed to take the role, even though it meant working harder than he ever had in his life. During the day, he filmed Family Ties. As soon as he finished, a car drove him straight to the Back to the Future set, where he filmed through the night. He usually returned home just long enough to catch 2 or 3 hours of sleep before starting again. This routine lasted for months, pushing him to his physical limit. Despite the exhausting schedule, something magical happened on set. Michael developed a natural creative chemistry with director Robert Zemeckis and writer Bob Gale. They understood his timing, his humor, and his instincts as an actor. He understood the tone they wanted and how to bring it to life. Their teamwork created scenes filled with charm, fun, and emotional honesty. The famous DeLorean time machine, the skateboard chase, the clock tower sequence, all these moments became iconic because Michael played them with enthusiasm and natural warmth. He gave Marty McFly a personality that felt real and full of life. Marty McFly quickly became a generational symbol. For many young people in the 1,980 seconds, he represented freedom, adventure, and the feeling that anything was possible. His confidence, humor, and relatable struggles made him one of the most loved characters of the decade. The movie's mix of comedy, time travel, family issues, and action connected with people of all ages. When the film was released in 1985, it became the highest-grossing movie of the year. Audiences around the world fell in love with Michael's performance, and his life changed forever. With the success of the film came a new level of fame. Suddenly, Michael was not just a TV star, he was an international movie star. He traveled for interviews, premieres, and worldwide press tours. Fans recognized him everywhere he went. Journalists wanted to talk to him, magazines featured him, and television shows invited him for appearances. He was young, energetic, and in demand. But the attention came with pressure. He wanted to stay grateful and humble, but he also had to learn how to manage the expectations of millions of people watching him. The success of the first film led to 2 sequels, released in 1989 and 1990. Filming them was a huge task, involving complex special effects, heavy makeup, and tight schedules. Michael played multiple versions of Marty, including future and alternate timeline versions. This demanded even more creativity and patience. The sequels expanded the cultural legacy of the franchise, and Michael's role remained the emotional center of the story. Even today, the trilogy is considered one of the most beloved film franchises ever made. During the same time, Michael also became a major teen idol. Movies like Teen Wolf and The Secret of My Success helped solidify his place as one of the most popular young actors of the 1,980 seconds. In Teen Wolf, he played a regular high school student dealing with a strange family secret, mixing comedy with themes of acceptance and self-confidence. In The Secret of My Success, he played a young man trying to rise in the business world, full of ambition and optimism. These roles showed his skill in combining humor with charm and emotional depth. Michael also explored roles that allowed him to balance comedy, drama, and even music. He used his natural sense of timing and expression to make each character unique. His ability to shift between different emotional tones made him stand out among young actors of his generation. Directors liked working with him because he was professional, quick to learn, and open to new ideas. But behind all the success, there was a growing emotional toll. Michael's work schedule was non-stop. For years, he moved directly from one project to another, sometimes without any real rest. While other people his age were enjoying their 20s, traveling, or taking time for themselves, Michael spent nearly all his time on sets. Fame also brought personal challenges. Constant attention, lack of privacy, and the pressure to always appear strong and cheerful were heavy burdens for someone still very young. He pushed himself to keep delivering strong performances, ignoring the signs that his body needed rest. This period of success was thrilling but demanding. Michael was grateful for every opportunity, but the long hours and constant stress began to wear him down slowly. He did not want to disappoint anyone, his fans, his co-workers, or the people who believed in him. So he kept working, kept smiling, and kept giving everything he had to every role he played. But just when success reached its peak, his body whispered the first warning, a whisper that would soon become a storm. The world saw the superstar. He alone felt the trembling truth beneath it. In 1991, while filming the movie Doc Hollywood, Michael J. Fox noticed something strange. One morning, he woke up and saw that his little finger on his left hand was shaking uncontrollably. At first, he thought it was just stress or tiredness. His schedule had been non-stop for years, so it made sense for his body to feel exhausted. But as days passed, the shaking did not stop. It worried him, and deep inside he felt that something was very wrong. This small tremor was the first sign of a battle he never expected to face. Michael went to different doctors to understand what was happening. After several tests, he finally received a diagnosis that changed his life forever. He was told he had young-onset Parkinson's disease, a long-term neurological condition that slowly affects movement and muscle control. Hearing these words at just 29 years old felt like a heavy blow. He had built his entire life on energy, movement, and expression, and now he was being told that those very things would be threatened. Michael later described this moment as one of the darkest in his life. It was not only fear, it was confusion, sadness, and a feeling that his future had suddenly become unclear. At first, he could not accept the diagnosis. He felt ashamed, angry, and afraid. He was a young man at the height of his career, loved by millions of people around the world, and he did not want anyone to see him as weak or sick. He tried to hide the truth from everyone except his closest family. The idea of telling the public terrified him. He worried that studios would stop hiring him or that people would look at him differently. So he kept the diagnosis private, choosing silence as a way to protect himself and his career. This decision created a painful internal war. Every day, he carried fear. Fear that someone would notice. Fear that a mistake on set would expose his condition. Fear that he might lose everything he had worked for. He also felt shame because he did not want to explain what was happening to him. Sometimes he grew angry at the disease, at his body, and at the timing of it all. He found himself asking questions that had no answers. Why me? Why now? What did I do wrong? These thoughts followed him everywhere, and yet he still had to smile for cameras, do interviews, and play roles as if nothing was wrong. Even with this emotional struggle, Michael kept working. He wanted to prove to himself that he could still act. Films like Life with Mikey, Greedy, and For Love or Money allowed him to continue showing his talent. On set, he learned how to hide symptoms by holding props, keeping his left hand busy, or adjusting his movements. It took careful planning and extra effort, but he refused to let the disease stop him. His co-workers often did not realize what he was going through, because he kept his fear buried behind professionalism and humor. But living with Parkinson's while pretending everything was normal took a heavy toll. Michael turned to alcohol for a period of time, using it to numb the thoughts and emotions he did not want to face. He felt trapped between the reality of his illness and the image he needed to maintain. This period became one of the hardest of his life, and he later admitted that he was losing control emotionally. The pressure, the secrecy, and the physical struggle were becoming too much to carry alone. Finally, he reached a breaking point. He realized he could not keep living in fear or hiding the truth. He needed to tell people, not because he wanted sympathy, but because honesty was the only way forward. In 1998, 7 years after his diagnosis, he made the brave decision to go public. When he announced that he had Parkinson's, the world reacted with shock, sadness, and enormous support. Fans, fellow actors, and people from around the globe sent messages of love and encouragement. Instead of losing respect, Michael gained admiration for his honesty and courage. The public reaction changed something inside him. He no longer felt alone or ashamed. Instead, he felt understood and supported. He realized that he did not have to fight this disease in silence. In fact, he could use his platform to bring attention to Parkinson's research and support others who were suffering. What began as the hardest moment of his life slowly became a turning point. He decided to turn pain into purpose. This new purpose gave him strength. He began speaking openly about the challenges of living with Parkinson's. He talked about the physical symptoms, the emotional toll, and the need for more scientific research. His honesty inspired many people who were facing similar battles. In the years that followed, he founded the Michael J. Fox Foundation, which became one of the world's leading organizations for Parkinson's research. His voice brought hope to millions and pushed scientists to look for better treatments. Even though he still struggled with symptoms, he found a new sense of identity. He was not just an actor anymore, he was someone who could make a difference. He learned to accept his diagnosis, not as a punishment, but as a challenge that he could face with courage. His determination to keep going, keep helping, and keep living fully showed the world a different kind of strength. His life had changed forever, but his spirit had only grown stronger. He had faced the truth, accepted it, and found purpose in it. And through this journey, he discovered that his greatest role was not on a screen, it was in real life, standing up against a disease that tried to silence him. But Michael was far from finished. His greatest comeback wasn't on film, but in the fight of his life. Some heroes wear capes, others shake, but never fall. After announcing his Parkinson's diagnosis to the world, Michael J. Fox stepped into a new chapter of life that proved how strong and determined he really was. Instead of slowing down, he accepted a major role on the television series Spin City in 1996. The show gave him a fresh start at a time when many expected his career to decline. Playing the deputy mayor of New York City, he brought charm, humor, and heart to the character, and audiences immediately fell in love with him again. Spin City became a huge success, showing that Michael still had the power to make people laugh, think, and care. The show marked a new peak in his television career. He earned awards, praise, and a renewed wave of public admiration. People respected his courage for continuing to work while managing a difficult illness. His comedic timing remained sharp, and his emotional range grew deeper. He won both Emmy and Golden Globe recognition for his work on the show. Fans tuned in week after week, not only to watch the story unfold, but also to witness Michael's incredible ability to rise above every challenge. His strength reminded viewers that illness did not define him, his talent and spirit did. But behind the scenes, the symptoms of Parkinson's were slowly progressing. The long filming days became harder. Memorizing lines required more effort. Small movements that once came naturally started to demand concentration. Even with determination, the reality of the disease could not be ignored. After 4 seasons, Michael made the difficult choice to leave Spin City. His goodbye was emotional not only for him, but for millions of fans who had followed his journey. He thanked the cast, crew, and viewers who had supported him. Many cried alongside him, knowing they were witnessing the end of an era in his acting career. His departure was not a sign of defeat, it was a moment of honesty and courage. Instead of disappearing from the public eye, Michael chose to turn his attention to something even more meaningful. In 2000, He founded the Michael J. Fox Foundation for Parkinson's Research. His goal was simple but bold: to speed up scientific progress and to find better treatments, and one day, a cure. The foundation quickly became one of the most important organizations in the world, focusing on Parkinson's. Michael used his fame to raise awareness, encourage donations, and bring attention to scientific studies. His openness created a bridge between researchers, patients, and families dealing with the same struggles. Over time, Michael became the global face of Parkinson's advocacy. People with the disease looked to him for strength. Scientists respected him for pushing forward research. Governments listened when he spoke about healthcare needs. He used his voice with honesty, humor, and deep compassion. He reminded everyone that a diagnosis did not erase a person's value or future. Instead, it could become a source of purpose. Michael also began writing books to share his story more personally. His first memoir, Lucky Man, explained the emotional and physical challenges of living with Parkinson's. The title surprised many people, but Michael meant it sincerely. He believed that the disease had taught him important lessons about gratitude, perspective, and love. His second book, Always Looking Up, described how he found optimism even during difficult moments. In A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Future, he reflected on life, mistakes, and the wisdom he gained over time. His writing reached millions of readers and helped people understand the human side of chronic illness. His books were honest, warm, and full of hope. Michael also became a powerful public speaker. He testified at Senate hearings about the importance of medical research and stem cell studies. His speeches were brave and emotional. He spoke not only for himself, but for every family affected by Parkinson's. His willingness to stand in front of lawmakers and show the visible symptoms of his disease showed a level of courage that inspired people around the world. Some criticized him, but he never responded with anger. He remained calm, determined, and focused on change. His political courage made a lasting impact. Even though his symptoms limited full-time acting, Michael still returned to TV in memorable guest roles. His appearances on Scrubs showed his skill in mixing humor with emotional honesty. On Boston Legal, he played a man struggling with health issues, bringing depth and authenticity to the role. On The Good Wife, he played a recurring character whose clever, confident personality quickly became a fan favorite. In each performance, he used his real-life experience to bring truth to the characters. His acting became sharper, more thoughtful, and more meaningful. With time, Michael transformed into something greater than a celebrity. He became an elder statesman of resilience. People listened to him not because he was famous, but because he had lived through hardship and continued to stand strong. He gave hope to those who felt discouraged. He showed that a diagnosis was not the end of life, but the beginning of a new kind of journey. He accepted his limitations without giving up on his dreams. His honesty made him one of the most respected public figures of his generation. Even as he continued to face daily symptoms, he remained active, supportive, and hopeful. He stayed involved in research developments, spoke at events, wrote more books, and maintained a strong connection with the Parkinson's community. His sense of humor kept him grounded, and his faith in science kept him moving forward. Every time he appeared in public, people were reminded of what true strength looks like. Michael's life during these years became a mix of challenge and purpose. He lost some parts of his old life, but he gained a new mission that touched millions. He became a voice for people who often felt unheard. He turned pain into progress, fear into advocacy, and uncertainty into leadership. He did not fall, he kept rising. Yet even with the world at his back, the battle at home within his own body was only growing harder. Behind every strong man is a stronger love holding the pieces together. For Michael J. Fox, that love came from Tracy Pollan, the woman who would stand beside him through fame, illness, and every difficulty in between. They met in the 1,980 seconds while working on Family Ties, where Tracy played his girlfriend on the show. Their on-screen connection soon turned into real affection, and on the 16th of July, 1988, they married. Many Hollywood marriages fall apart under pressure, but theirs became one of the rare partnerships that grew stronger with time. Their bond survived because it was built on honesty, respect, and a deep understanding of each other as human beings, not as celebrities. From the beginning, Tracy and Michael created a life that centered on real values rather than fame. They supported each other's careers but never let the entertainment world control their relationship. Tracy stayed grounded, avoided unnecessary publicity, and focused on building a stable home. Michael admired her strength, intelligence, and calm nature. She became the person he relied on the most, someone who brought balance into his life. Their love was not dramatic or flashy. It was steady, patient, and real. This foundation helped them weather challenges that would have crushed many other relationships. Together, they raised 4 children: Sam, twins Aquina and Skylar, and their youngest daughter, Esme. Raising a family while being a public figure was never easy. Media attention followed them everywhere, and Michael's fame meant that their children grew up with cameras around them. Tracy and Michael worked hard to protect their kids from the pressures of the industry. They set boundaries, kept the children's lives private, and created a household where real conversations, family dinners, and emotional support mattered more than red carpets or public events. They wanted their children to feel loved, safe, and free to live normal lives. When Michael was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, the emotional weight of the illness became a part of their marriage. At first, he hid the diagnosis from almost everyone, but Tracy knew from the beginning. She faced the truth with calm strength, standing beside him as he struggled to accept the disease. Many marriages fall apart under the stress of chronic illness, but theirs adapted. Tracy supported him through fear, sadness, and the uncertainty of what the future would hold. She encouraged him to open up, seek help, and eventually share his diagnosis with the public. She became not just his wife, but his advocate and emotional anchor. Tracy's role in his life grew even more important as the symptoms increased. She managed the daily challenges of living with Parkinson's, helped him navigate medical decisions, and became his partner in balancing work and health. At the same time, she made sure he felt respected, capable, and valued. She never treated him as someone broken. She treated him as the man she loved, someone strong and worth fighting for. Michael has often said that Tracy's support was one of the biggest reasons he stayed positive and hopeful through his illness. There were many private moments that fans never saw: the late nights when symptoms kept him awake, the mornings when tremors made simple tasks more difficult, the emotional conversations about fear, aging, and the unknown path ahead. Tracy was there through it all, offering comfort without pity, strength without pressure, and love without limits. Their home life was not perfect, but it was honest. They faced their struggles together, turning pain into connection rather than distance. Parenting through adversity became a central part of Michael's philosophy as a father. He wanted his children to see that difficulty did not have to define a person. He showed them that courage was not about being strong all the time, but about standing up each day and doing the best you can. He taught them empathy, humor, and resilience. Even when his symptoms limited certain activities, he found other ways to be involved, helping with homework, telling stories, sharing jokes, and giving advice. The children grew up seeing their father not as someone who was sick, but as someone who kept fighting with love and positivity. Family changed Michael's sense of identity. As much as he loved acting, he realized that his true purpose was deeper than fame. His family gave him meaning, stability, and joy. They reminded him of who he was beyond the roles he played. They celebrated his successes and supported him during setbacks. Through illness and recovery, they were the constant presence that kept him grounded. He often said that being a husband and father was the greatest role he ever had. After stepping back from acting, Michael embraced a quieter life centered around family, advocacy, and writing. He found peace in routines, simple pleasures, and time spent with loved ones. He continued to attend events for Parkinson's research, but he allowed himself to rest more. At home, he enjoyed conversations, music, reading, and watching his children grow into adults. He no longer needed the spotlight to feel fulfilled. His life became slower but richer, filled with gratitude for the people who loved him most. Despite the challenges, Michael remained hopeful. He learned to appreciate moments of calm, laughter, and connection. He focused on what he could do instead of what he had lost. His family gave him strength, and he gave them wisdom in return. Their journey together through fame, illness, joy, and heartbreak became a story of love that endured every test. And as he embraced the peace of family life, Michael began confronting the question no one wants to ask. How do you prepare for the end? A life lived in the spotlight forces a man to think carefully about who he wants in his final shadow. As Michael J. Fox turned 64, he found himself thinking more about mortality, not in a fearful way, but in a practical and honest one. Years of illness, fame, and personal growth had taught him how fragile life can be. He had spent decades fighting Parkinson's, raising a family, and building a legacy that reached far beyond television and film. Reaching this age made him reflect on what truly mattered. He began thinking about emotional space, authenticity, and the people he wanted around him during his final moments and even after he was gone. In private moments, Michael often thought about the difference between public relationships and real ones. He spent most of his life in an industry where friendships can be shaped by convenience, attention, or temporary connection. Over time, he learned the value of honesty and closeness. He also learned that not every person he worked with or met in Hollywood was someone he wanted included in the most personal parts of his life. Funerals, in his mind, were not events for crowds or public displays. He believed they should be intimate, quiet, and filled with people who truly knew the person being honored. For him, authenticity was more important than tradition or expectations. He also understood that fame changes how people interact with you. Some people see the superstar, not the man behind the roles. Some want to be close to the image, not the real human being. Over the years, Michael became sensitive to this difference. So when he spoke about who he did not want at his funeral, it came from a place of clarity, not anger. These were reflections about emotional boundaries, not hostility. He understood that setting limits was a form of peace, not rejection. In these reflections, he mentioned a few individuals who, despite being part of his professional journey, were not people he felt belonged in that final circle. One of those names was Lea Thompson. They had worked together and created memorable moments on screen, but behind the scenes, there were creative differences that never completely healed. Michael respected her talent, but he felt that their working relationship had left some friction that made the idea of her being present at such a private moment uncomfortable. For him, funerals should not include unresolved feelings or old tension. He also reflected on Patricia Heaton, someone he had crossed paths with professionally but never formed a deep bond with. In his mind, funerals were places for people who shared emotional connection, understanding, and closeness. Patricia, though talented and well-liked, was not someone he felt tied to on a personal level. He believed that such moments should not be filled with faces who came only out of respect for his public career, rather than personal meaning. He also mentioned Quentin Tarantino, a filmmaker known for his genius and bold creativity. Michael admired his work, but felt that their personalities were too different. Quentin's intense energy and strong opinions did not match the calm, reflective atmosphere Michael wanted for his farewell. He understood that not everyone's presence adds to peace, even if they are admired artists. Johnny Depp was another person he reflected on. Michael acknowledged his talent and unique personality, but he also knew that some people bring unpredictability into quiet spaces. A funeral, in his mind, should not become a stage for strong personalities or dramatic energy. It should be a place of softness, stillness, and emotional balance. He felt that Johnny, although respected, might shift the tone unintentionally. He also mentioned George Clooney, someone widely admired for his charm, humor, and generosity. Michael liked him, but he understood that some people naturally take attention in any room they enter. George had a bright presence that often became the center of social gatherings. Michael imagined that such an aura might unintentionally overshadow the intimate, humble atmosphere he wanted. It wasn't about dislike, it was simply about keeping the moment focused on family, love, and quiet reflection. Behind these choices was a deep psychological understanding. Setting end-of-life boundaries is not about exclusion. It is about emotional honesty. It is about protecting the energy of a moment that cannot be repeated. For Michael, this was a way of choosing peace, not conflict. He believed that the final chapter of a person's life should reflect their true relationships, not their professional history. He wanted the people who had shaped his heart, not his career, to stand in that space. These reflections revealed much about his journey. Michael had spent decades learning who he was beyond fame. He faced illness, disappointment, joy, and success. He learned the difference between public love and private affection. By making these decisions, he showed that he understood himself deeply. He no longer felt the need to please everyone or maintain an image. He cared only about emotional truth and the people who had walked beside him with love and honesty. Fans reacted to his reflections with a mix of surprise and understanding. Many respected his honesty and admired his courage in speaking openly about something so personal. Others felt closer to him, appreciating that he shared thoughts many people have but rarely express. His honesty reminded people that even celebrities have vulnerable moments and private feelings. It also made fans reflect on their own boundaries and the people they would choose to stand beside them at the end. As he looked over his life, his family, his career, his advocacy, and the millions he inspired, Michael understood that his true legacy was not just in movies or television shows. It lived in the hope he gave to others, the love he built in his home, and the strength he showed through decades of illness. His story had become bigger than fame. It had become a lesson in courage, gratitude, and authenticity. But as Michael looks toward the inevitable horizon, one question remains the only one time itself can answer.